Okay, so the enemy is stuck inside the wall, guys. Okay, Sacred Flame, inside the enemy, inside the wall. It hit! It actually hit! Oh my god! So, before you unsubscribe, Baldur's Gate 3 is arguably the best game this year, right? Best game maybe in a few years, but it is not perfect, right? And one reason I want to make this video is because I'm hoping for, you know, maybe some patches, generally speaking, but also, of course, like a Baldur's Gate 3.4, a 5, whatever, right? So, I have a question for you guys before we get into the list, which is, do you want like an Act 4 expansion? Something like, you know, Baldur's Gate 2 had, right? Or like Diablo has and so on. Because I know this game is very popular, and for one reason it's popular is because it has no, of course, microtransaction, right? You get the full game immediately, there's no extra things to buy and so on. And I get that, I agree, I also hate microtransactions. But for me at least, I see no issue if in a half year from now they release an Act 4. Or let's say half a year from now, they have more classes and more races. And of course, I know that D&D doesn't have that many more classes, but let's just, you know, go for that. Just give me more classes. Anyway, I see no problem with that. What do you guys think? Because I think it's a big difference, you know, like dropping a game day one, like 10 characters, and have 5 more characters to, you know, buy at the same time. That is terrible, right? Like you have half the game on release, terrible. But if you have 10 characters day one, and then 1 year later, you can buy, you know, 5 more, like a DLC pack. That I think is perfectly fine, because then you can keep, you know, working on a game and so on, right? Given the success of this game, I would absolutely assume they're making at least some kind of side, you know, Act 4, I guess, is the obvious thing, right? But what do you guys think? Because I know some people really love this game because you can't buy anything else into it, right? But I think it's a big difference between microtransactions as like a typical, you know, expansion pack. But anyway, let's go into 10 top things that I think the game actually could do better. So number 1, this puzzle thing here. See, it happened again! I don't know how many times in this game that I have misclicked, and usually, of course, I'm talking to one of my companions, right? You know what I'm talking about? Honestly, it is really bothering me that many times when I'm trying to open a door, and this was probably the worst part in the game, you try to press this brain thingy, right? Open this closed door, and it's so many times that the mouse like misses on 1 pixel, and suddenly I either cancel this puzzle, right? Or I'm in a conversation with other companions. I mean, honestly, it happens so often when I'm trying to open a door or something, right? And the companions like walk in the path, right? So you press the companion instead of opening the door, or, you know, the chest door, usually doors, right? And it's like, oh, you have to zoom into the companion. You know what I'm talking about. This is frustrating to me, okay? It's frustrating. The game needs to be a little less sensitive on pressing the button, or like, I don't know, reducing like the hitbox collision section for the mouse click for the companions. There is like some kind of sensitive thing there, but honestly, this bothers me because it's so often. Just please let me just, you know, replace you for a bit, right? So my next point then is that the game I find quite frustrating. It doesn't have a typical, you know, party select menu, right? So you have to go to the camp to change party member, which is fine. Like in most games, you can't just change party member whenever you want. That's perfectly fine. But the problem is that, of course, you have to talk to them. And you have to go... I mean, honestly, I don't like it at all, because you have to walk to them, which costing me time, right? Run into them or summoning them to you. But either way, someone has to walk back and forth, right? And then when you talk to them, you know what I mean? This has been mean people. Yeah, if you talk to them, it's like, yes, here's our conversation. It's like, please leave. And then you ask them to leave. It's like that typical old Windows note thing. Like, oh, you sure you want to leave? You know, it's like, yes, Shadowheart, you're very attractive. I still love you, but I can't have a cleric in this fight. So can you stay at home for 10 minutes? I still love you. And she's like, but don't you love me anymore? You know, so that they refuse to accept to leave to. It takes so much time to change party members. And if you have to change a few party members, because you're like, I want to replace, you know, 2-3 characters, right? It's seriously take like 10 minutes. Yeah, you have to walk to every person, get their dialogue, you know, get the cutscene for dialogue, you know, tell them to leave. They will refuse to leave first. They tell them, please leave. It's like, leave, I don't love you anymore. And then you have to do that, and it takes so long time. It really does frustrate me. It really does. The game usually needs to like have a very simple menu. I'm talking about like most game has. You just get a typical, you know, here's a UI menu, and you just change characters, right? Shouldn't they have this thing? And I do get it, right? From like the first time you play the game, then this thing actually makes sense, some extent, because it fits a little more how to say, it feels more real, right? If you talk to them, you have discussion with them and so on. So it feels more real, for the first event. But then it feels bothersome that the game lacks like a streamlined UI, right? And it's just like, this is more immersion. But it's like, yeah, but no, I don't care what's changed. Let me show you a step on the game then, which I think. So this now here is Fire Emblem Engage, also released this year. This is me playing the game. And this game I think has a much better solution for this immersion. So basically, after you finish a fight in the game, there are more like strategic, right? Take a longer time. Every fight takes like a half an hour or so. You then land in this kind of like fight camp, right? And then you can then talk to everyone. Now everyone will give you different comments depending on how they perform, right? So it also gives some little resource for you. So the comment you get from the character here is different depending on if they were like a good character now. So for example, if Lady Anne is your MVP, so usually Anne is my MVP because when she defeats an enemy, you get extra gold, right? So usually she gets the most kills, so she gets high level and so on, right? So she will usually comment like, "Who's today's MVP? It's me!" Right? So she's not happy about it, right? So you get a little bit of the character's immersion, a little bit how their personality or so when you play the game. But what I really like in this game, honestly, is that so every character you have in your party, right, they will appear in this like city afterwards or the battlefield or whatever. They sit there. However, you have like, let's say 30, 40 playable characters. I don't know, I have the DLC. A bunch of weebo avid characters. A lot of them, a lot of waifus, right? Bunch of waifus, right? But the characters that you don't have in your party, they will be randomized into this camp anyway. So, for example, if you don't have, I don't know, like Rosario, right? She's just gonna be there and be all thirsty. I wanna be in the next fire. Why you love me anymore? You know. So they're still gonna do that, like the companion does in Baldur's Gate 3, where they complain to you, but don't you love me anymore? I'm the strongest. Yeah, they're still gonna complain to you. Obviously the complaint is based on who they are, right? So you have like a very, very thirsty character in the game. That was censored in the court of English, whatever, it's on a video. But she's like super, she's like, don't you want me anymore? If you put me in the party, we can do it afterwards, and so on, right? Whereas the more the guy is more like, oh, I'm the strongest, put me in the party, right? So they will still have their personality and so on. And like I said, depending on how well they do after the fight, they will have different kind of comments, right? Based on their performance, right? So you still get that, but you can also completely ignore this thing, right? This is all just a typical like camp emotion feel to it. But if you see when I change character, the game is a typical UI. I mean, you get it. It's not very complicated. But, the game still has a very classic video game UI. All the character, the equipment, the stats, right? Very easy to manage because we have like 40 playable characters, right? It's very easy to manage them. So you have, like I said, you have all the immersion stuff on the sideline if you want it, right? You can also ignore all the characters in the camp because if you talk to them, they will give you treasure and so on. But if you don't talk to anyone, you still get the exact same amount of treasure. So it's all if you want to have it, right? And if you want to just focus on the gameplay mechanics, you have the typical UI thing. Let's talk about how Sacred Flame always misses. So I've done the math, right? So I've thrown Sacred Flame 24 billion times, and the result was that it missed literally every single time. So, it's nothing wrong with that. But seriously, right, it does feel like Sacred Flame has too low hit chance compared to what it actually is telling me, right, from in the UI. And I do want to point out here, though, that games might be wrong at, okay? So I will show you here, like an actual in-game example of a game I played that was mathematically wrong, and I proved it correctly. I'll explain this here soon. But also from an actual developer standpoint, I worked on a game a few years ago, where even if I, as the lead designer or whatever, creative director, had written the algorithms, like the basic algorithm for how to calculate the damage of the specific unit, right? The guy implementing it still did it wrong, right? So he did it wrong even if I had given him like the sheet how to do it, right? So and then that was in the game probably for like a month or so until I had time to test the character he had implemented. And then I saw that the math just didn't, correctly work because I, of course, designed the character, so I knew exactly this ability to do this and this and this in this situation. This seems wrong to me. Something is weird with the math, right? The math seems off here. At first glance, you might not see it because it's not like a bug per se. I mean, it's a bug, but it doesn't crash the game, right? It's like mathematically it's a wrong result, right? But it doesn't crash the game to that the damage is wrong. But I was like, nah, this seems wrong. I designed this character. He should be stronger than this, And then I looked into his code. And I was like, "I see you did wrong again. Your math is actually you mathematically are wrong." No, I'm not saying, but I am saying, Sacred Flame is mathematically wrong. But seriously, I'm a little bit like, you know, if I was them, and I mean genuinely, of course, there are probably some mathematical issues in the game. Because there are some times when I feel like, this ability is wrong here, okay? So I'm the best player in the world in Marvel Avengers Alliance, and I mean, I literally am the best player in the world in this game. So it's not me saying that. In this game, it's a turn-based game, right? Played with Marvel characters. And you do one attack, and then it's the next character turn and so on, right? The most popular character in this game of all time is Emma Frost by far, and she has an ability that's supposed to be a 60% stun chance. However, this to me and to other players seemed to be way overpowered. And even if that was it's a bug, yeah, it was a bug, right? It seemed to be like, nah, this is stunning way too much. It can't be 60%. There have to be some mathematical issues here, right? So I actually managed to prove exactly by doing, of course, a bigger sample size, right? Me and other players, we proved that it was way too likely to stun, right? So I bring it up here because that's one of those things where the developer will tell you, no, you just run, no, it's right, no, it's wrong, you know, so a bit. But I can even explain exactly how that bug works and why it happened, right? So let's see here, the thing is punching into the doom there, right? Then you get an attack, right? So every cat is one turn, right? And her ability again then, 60% stun. But because her ability, I can tell you the answer first then, so you figure it out. Her ability had an 84% stun, instead of a 60% stun, so it's a 14% higher stun rate than it should be, right? Which actually is pretty significant because it's close to 100, right? 84%. It happens, that is 7 out of 8, yeah. So it happens like much higher rate, right? It's bigger there. You might, if you're good at math, you might have figured out the answer then. But the answer is that because the animation was like bam, bam, it was 2 hits. The mathematic did was it calculated it twice. So if you go here to my spreadsheet, you saw it earlier, right? So for 60% chance to stun, that was how it's supposed to be from a balance, you know, from a tech tooltip standpoint, right? But it's actually 84% chance to happen. The reason then again is mentioned because of hitting twice, right? So double hit, and each animated hit gave you a 60% chance. So to calculate that, that is an XOR situation. So if you know your grids, if you know your computing logical grids, that's called an XOR operation, which means that it happens if it's 1-1, it happens right, 1-0 and 0-1. So it's only when both are failing it happens. It's very easy math to calculate. You just take 1 minus 0.4 times 0.4. Did I write it down? Whatever. So you do the math this right. You take 1 minus, this is the miss chance, 0.4 x 0.4. That will give you the situation of 0-0 stun, right? You can also calculate it by doing. So you have 2 different paths, right? So you can calculate it all the way to, you get like 60% chance times 60 plus, so we're correcting 60% and x 0.4, and then you also have the other direction. You can see it, sorry, you can't see it now. You can't see it there. This will be the other direction, like this. This is actually probably the more correct way to structure your math, I guess, if I was a math teacher. But no, I would say this is one way to do it right. That sum is the percentage chance that will happen. But that will give you the exact same value as this value, right? That's a much smarter way to do it. So this is so it's just modern math tip here. Yeah, this is the smart way to do it. This is a dumb way to calculate, okay? Don't do the dumb way, do the smart way. Because mathematics is the same thing, right? You either calculate this thing here is calculating these, right? But this thing here is calculating this thing instead, which is much easier to calculate. So you can do it in your head, right? So this is a math thing. But anyway, I proved it correctly, right? So I was playing this game. I was the best player in the world. Active in the forum as well, right? So I did a bunch of sample sizes for this thing, right? Me and another guy. And I proved that no, it seemingly is 84% hit chance, right? You know, if you do it 1,000 times, this is roughly the number you get. And then given there's 2 animations, I can assume that is, 666, yeah, that is the mathematical chance is this because I have it twice. And then eventually the developer was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then the developer eventually, after a few months, was like, Oh yeah, now you say that, it actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's happening twice. Yeah, okay, we see it now. Okay, fix it. This is me playing Nioh 2, guys. As you can see here, my point is, where's my goddamn boob slider, okay? That's my point. So, seriously, right? Nioh 2 still probably has the best character creator. You can make a waifu, so you can have different tattoos. You can also move the tattoo, guys. You can do different muscle sizes, you can move it around. You can have different boob sizes. where's my boob slider, okay? Am I the only one? Where's my like titty extender? And I wanna point out here, guys, okay? Some people complain on Baldur's Gate 3, right? You can play a footer, right? Or whatever. You can play, you know, a character with boobs and, you know, a penis, right? You know? That's not my problem with the game, right? My problem with the character is that if I'm gonna play a footer, right? I wanna have a goddamn massive SCHLONG, guys. No jokes, right? You know? I wanna make my woman have a penis large as her arm, right? You know? I wanna have that dick size, yeah. So my biggest problem with Baldur's Gate 3 is that the penises are too tiny, right? Yeah, I want to have like a massive, huge thing, and of course I need to have an ab thing, right? So I can make well-defined muscular abs. And then I want to have a boob slider, right? So I can make her OPPAIs way larger, right? Honestly, biggest issue in the game, seriously. But you know, I don't think that the character creator in Baldur's Gate 3 is like the worst thing ever. But it also isn't on Nioh level, right? Where I can like specifically define how much muscle she has, right? It's not on the same level where I can define her boob size, right? You know, it's not on a level where I can do her, you know, her penis size either. No, but seriously, right? It doesn't have that. My two favorite games so far, I think, in this category, is Nioh 2 and Code Vein, right? Code Vein you can do so much stuff into. I think the Nioh 2 has a really good, it's like how the muscle and so on. But in Code Vein, you can do so much with like the different glasses and shades, and like the character can have like, oh, on my left leg, I'm gonna have, you know, some accessory, some kind of, you know, some this thing, and on my right leg, I'm gonna have just be plain there. Then on my left hand, I can have an armlet, but on my right hand, I have a gauntlet. You can like specify 8 or so accessories per like body part and so on. But this game here, I think, is really good with the tattoos because you can move them around so freely, right? So you have like 500 different tattoos, typically Japanese style, and you can put it, you know, and you can have it here and here, and you can move it around different angles, you can color it. So, and then also later on in Nioh, you also can specify your hair color and your animation, your VFX and so on. So honestly, I mean, if you haven't played Nioh 2, the game is not the best game ever. It's like a Dark Souls game, right? But honestly, character creating this game, I still think it's my favorite character creator because you can also then character create, yeah, like do different VFX. Oh, I want to be a yellow demon with gold horns or whatever, and I transform and so on. So you can, it's a lot, it's like an hour custom character creator in this game, man. But seriously, yeah, I think Baldur's Gate 3 has like a decent character creator, right? It's not like, you know, it's not bad, but I do think it has a little limited, like, you know, body shapes, right? Like you have either only 4 or 2 different shapes, you know, per race, and so usually, and they're very similar. So either you're like if you're like an elf woman, right? You can either be like a somewhat tall elf woman, or, you know, like a short elf woman, right? You can't be like anything in between. The game doesn't have like size. Yeah, what the game probably lacks the most in character creator is, you know, like a control over that, right? Some kind of like again a slider, yeah. So instead of having 2 different female body shapes, right? The game should be like, you can be either, you know, let's say 1 meter tall to like 3 meter tall, right? And slide in between that, right? And then of course again, you can slide your OPPAIs, your abs, or your muscles, or whatever, and all that stuff, right? You know, so they lack that, and also tattoos, accessories, and all that stuff better too, right? That being said, obviously it's a lot of stuff working there, but I still think that the game's engine should at least be able to handle more different sizes of bodies, right, and so on. Because obviously you can play like a gnome or something, so it's not really like the game can't handle different sizes, but it's more like customizable sizes that are kind of lacking. But I do think the game graphically had that, so I really think the game actually is lacking there. So yeah, with my book. Now my next point is, what the hell is a saving throw, right? What is this thing? I know I might get some hate on this point here, so leave a comment below, guys. But I think that the game would be even more popular, Baldur's Gate 3, right? If it had 2 different languages, right? I understand that the game is using typical D&D rules, right? Like saving throws, stuff like that, you know? And that makes sense if you have played D&D. And it makes no sense to anyone else. Now, I have played D&D, but, you know, I am still a little bit like, saving throws and so on. Yeah, it's like, the language is so archaic, and it's like, it feels like unnecessarily, you know, weirdly worded, right? From a game done in like the 70s, right? So my solution for this is that this is basically done in string, right? So you have two different strings. It's a variable string. You just make the game have a D&D language mode and, you know, modern language mode, right? A lot of text in the game, I think the game would be much more accessible, right? If it actually had more like, you know, turn on like normal language mode for gamers, you know, born in the last 30 years. You know what I mean? Where it sounds like hit and miss chance and so on, right? And so on. Because I'm not saying that it should change the actual game mechanics. That's what I'm saying, right? But I do think that the game would be even better if it had like, you know, accessibility, read mode for people that don't speak D&D Greek, you know. I think so, honestly, right? And I'm a hardcore geek guy. That usually is a gatekeeper, but I think here actually, yeah, I think the game should probably have like easy read mode and like D&D read. Now, why are the NPC so goddamn stupid, right? Like in every goddamn game. I already talked about this in my review video, so I won't cover it in detail here. I'll cover it more in that video. So if you're interested in the mathematics behind it, I try to explain that in the other video. This is some kind of neural network image that I found random here. But the point is that I do find that NPCs could be a little smarter. I'm talking about the actual, obviously the game is turn-based, so you for control. I'm talking about a little bit of like how they actually interact with you, right? For example, this actually does bother me. I said earlier, it's a nitpick video, guys, okay? Do not subscribe, it's a nitpick video. It's this nitpick, okay? But it does bother me that my first playthrough, actually all my playthrough, when Gale is like, I need some magic, bro, you know, Gale is all like, you know, high on his magic stuff, right? And I refused to give him magic. I was like, screw you, I want to give you some magic, you addict, right? So I was just mean, and I didn't do anything for Gale, right? Yet, he is trying to bang me immediately, right? You know what I mean? I'm just like, why is he trying to have sex with me for? You know, he's basically harassing me. I'm like, what's happening, Gale, man? Like, I've been mean to you for the last, for the last 3 hours or something like that, right? You're really trying to bang me. Get away from me, you weirdo, right? God, I'm hentai, man. And, I really mean, I think that the AI, to some extent, should be slightly smarter, right? This is more like an NPC state machine or whatever. So it isn't complicated from like any mathematical code-wise. It basically is like a state like that. And yeah, it should be a little more aware of, like, where are we in our relationship, right? You know, like, what have I done and so on. Because you probably see those, like, speed run, sex at any speed run, yeah. So if it is either, honestly, if it's too easy to get laid, okay? It's unrealistic, guys. It's unrealistic, okay? The game is unrealistic. It should be way harder to get laid in Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah. All the characters are too thirsty. That is mostly because the AI isn't really thinking about your actions and states. It's far too easy to smash, okay? Terrible game. What were they thinking? No one wants that. But in all seriousness, yeah, I think the game should be a little better at, like, understanding where the companion is in some kind of, state machine, right? So it's like, well, maybe we shouldn't do it now, right? That's one thing. And generally speaking, later interaction in Act 3, again, I mentioned my review part, should also be a little more like, maybe you can't, tell Will this thing. Because depending on what you said in Act 2 and Act 1, now this option in Act 3 is just gone, right? I think it's really smarter like that. A little more, tree structure. Because it actually isn't that tree structured, right? This game is more like Boolean flags, so it's more like, no matter what you did in Act 1 and 2, doesn't actually matter for some scenarios. It's very clear that you can say get to that scenario, and then whatever you pick there might still matter, of course, right? The actual interaction, but like the previous flags clearly not matter that much, and it's more so that you get not your companions but your allies, right? Based on like a Boolean flag, rather than a more like natural tree, like some kind of graph tree sort. obviously, let's stop here. Don't get me started. Yeah, don't get me started on tree graphs. Okay, like work damage. Yeah, okay. So this video will be 10 hours if I'm not going to explain what I actually want in the game. But I hope you get my point. I think the game has a little. It is a little simplistic. Okay, how the companion actually handle later stuff, right? I think, and it could be more natural there, right? And also, like I said, I think they're way too touched in the beginning again because they don't really. And it wouldn't be a video if I don't mention that Act 3 is really buggy, right? I mean, like, okay, so this is me fighting a boss in Act 3, and he's just like really, yeah, he's just bugging out, guys. He's bugging out like crazy. Yeah. So like I said in my review video, we have to of course address here, this is about the last part of the video, guys, is that the game is quite buggy, right, in Act 3. So that's the same thing as I mentioned earlier with like mathematics that might be wrong, or like the companion AI is like not the best AI math. I'm talking about actual bugs, right? Like straight up bugs. I have lost saves once, the game crashed for me, then I lost like a days of saves or so on, right? You know how it goes. I'm not gonna dwell on it too much, but clearly the game should be better polished, right, for Act 3 specifically. And I think the main issue I have with Act 3 is that it just feels like it's really lag. Like it, you know, my PC is like burning. my PC is like exploding. Yeah, it's like it's like a meteor down there. Okay, yeah, it seems to really overheat my GPU eventually, right? Yeah, so it's not optimized. And I don't want to talk about too much. I mean, obviously you already know about that. It is the most obvious issue of the game, right? That it actually is somewhat buggy and lack of optimization rather, right, in Act 3. But if we're gonna make a top list, right, of things that I hate, it needs to be included, I feel, even though it's not nitpicky, it's opposite. It's the most obvious thing ever. Anyway, guys, hope you liked the video. What do you guys think? And I say here again, just briefly, right, kind of summarize it. I definitely think that the part thing that I mentioned, at least, that's something I can see being fixed in a patch tomorrow, right? You know, I really hope to do that because I am quite bothered by they don't have an easy UI, right, to change the portrait membership in the camp. It's just a low hanging fruit too, you know what I mean? Because it really is like a few minutes every time you go to your camp. You just change one character, and it really is like a very low hanging fruit. And you also preferably maybe could talk to, you know, hireling and resurrection, and it could be, you know, imagine all of that stuff, right? Just being in a shop basically, right? A UI store thing. Want to change character, want to revive someone, right? It would be way simpler, right? That's how games usually do it. And I understand, like I said earlier, that the way it's done now is more immersion, right? But I think my sample tab, Fire Emblem Engage, I think it's a much better example of it. So you have the immersion if you want to. You can around, talk to everyone, and get different snippets and the personality, trying to seduce you, whatever. So you get all that, right? Or you can just go into the goddamn classic, you know, here's a typical Japanese game menu, which is like everything, stats, change character, yeah, very, very streamlined. So, you know, end of the day, right, I'd rather have, I guess, less immersion and have a smoother gameplay. But you can do both, right? I think that's one thing that I hope at least we can see in a patch, in like maybe the next big game patch, right? But anyway, subscribe, press the like button, have a great day.